Lantern Rite Festival is right around the corner, and Xiao and Ganyu are both speculated to get a rerun. So in this video, I'll be talking about Xiao's inherent flaws and a general guide on him at the end of the video. To start with a summary, in my opinion, Xiao isn't that great and not worth pulling for. He lacks the damage ceiling and the specialization to compete with the truly amazing characters, and he isn't really fun to play as his gameplay is super repetitive by him only plunge attacking in general. Xiao is a character that is meant to be a jack of all trades and master of none. He isn't the best at anything, but is decent at everything. Being an Anemo hypercarry allows Xiao to deal damage to every element, but being Anemo is one of his issues. Anemo has no access to Viridescent Venom or Shred and no access to reaction damage without elemental mastery. Now, I'm not saying that not having reactions breaks a character, but the damage output of Xiao is pretty mediocre, with my Xiao hitting from 28k to 32k with Primordial Jade Winged Spear, 73 crit rate, 189 crit damage stats, and 969 talent on enemies without much resistance. You could improve Xiao's damage with normal attack 1, charge attack, jump, plunge, or Bennett, Lisa, and Albedo, for example, but it shows his second problem, his disruptive attacks. His main way of dealing damage is to plunge attack during burst with his enhanced jump. His normal attacks aren't worth using as they don't deal as much damage. His plunges have the highest stagger in the game, so if an enemy gets staggered, they will be interrupted and you can continuously stagger enemies so long as his burst is up. But it's a double-edged sword, as plunge attacks often causes enemies to be pushed back. With the amount of plunge attacks you are doing with Xiao, he often pushes enemies away from turret ranges and forces you to leave buffing fields. Unless you want to manage where you plunge so you knock enemies into the wall, but harder enemies move a lot, such as the wolves teleporting, making it difficult to force them into the wall. The N1 CJP combo can be used against stationary enemies because enemies that Xiao knocks back are too far away to hit with a combo. Another issue with his plunge attacks is that the animation to jump and plunge takes a decent amount of time for the animations to play out, and you are locked during those animations. Being locked in the animations exposes you to being hit during your jump, mid-air, and plunge attack. If you are hit hard enough during a jump or mid-air, you fall from the maximum height of your jump and tumble normally. If you are hit hard during the plunge animation, you go through the entire plunge animation and then tumble. Getting hit during the animations lengthens the hit stuns and opens you up to multi-hits. You can choose to bring lots of healings and shields, but it does take up team slots to improve Xiao's damage, or to have turrets to have more damage. And that's everything to know about Xiao's issues. He lacks specialization, lacks damage without major investment, has disruptive attacks, stiff animations, and has risky attacks. Playing him is, again, boring, as his gameplay can be summed up by funneling energy into him and then bursting to mash jump and then plunge. His AoE capabilities are fine and even good, but knocking small enemies back hurts his damage output and his single target is not great. Xiao is also not good in the open world as his burst form deals too much damage, but not enough damage in his normal form. In my opinion, I would rate Xiao as an average character. He's far from bad, but not great either. If you still want to pull Xiao, regardless of his issues, because he's your boy, the weapon I would recommend for him is Staff of Homa. It's just a very good stat stick in general with high base attack, crit damage, substat, and a little bit of attack scaling from HP, and a little bit of an attack bonus if his HP is below 50%. For a cheaper option, I would recommend Blackcliff Spear with a decently high base attack and a lot of crit damage. It also helps him with his AoE, especially if he's fighting small enemies, as the Blackcliff Spear's passive gives an attack bonus for every kill Xiao does. Primordial Jade Winged Spear was his previous best in slot, but it's not really that great. It's just the stat stick. It's really no better than, say, the Gladiator Spear, which I really don't recommend. A strange pick that you could choose for Xiao is Engulfing Lightning. Engulfing Lightning helps Xiao with his energy recharge issues. Not that he has any, but it really just helps him with his burst consistency and will give him a little bit of an attack bonus when he's ulting, since when you ult, you get bonus energy recharge, and engulfing lightning gives you an attack scaling from energy recharge. Artifact sets I recommend for Xiao is 2-set Gladiator and 2-set Shimenawa, because they're very easy to get with Gladiator from the artifact boxes and Shimenawa from the Emblem of Severed Fate dungeon, and everyone farms it a lot, so it really just helps. The second set, which is kind of okay, is 2-set Gladiator and slash 2-set Shimenawa and Viridescent Venerer 2-set. I don't really recommend that set as much because Viridescent Venerer's artifacts are, they're really hard to get. And you could do 4-set Shimenawa, but I do not recommend it at all because it reduces your energy, which you absolutely need, and the plunge damage bonus that it adds is damage percent, and because you're Xiao, you're already oversaturated in damage percent that it's not worth it. Artifact main stats should be the staple of damage dealers, which is attack percent sands, anemo percent cup, and crit rate or crit damage depending on whatever you need to balance them out. Attack percent cup can work, but anemo percent cup would be optimal. Substats that should be prioritized aside from crit stats should be attack percent and energy recharge. Attack percent is appreciated for more damage, but energy recharge substats are great if you want to keep his burst consistency up. Talents to focus on are his normal attack talents, as those bring the most multipliers for his plunge attack. His burst shouldn't be leveled up as much because they bring an oversaturated damage percent, as mentioned before. You don't really need to level up his elemental skill, as in my experience I only use them to generate particles rather than dealing damage. His constellations don't really add much. C1 adds more particles, but it's better to have someone like Sucrose with sacrificial fragments to funnel particles for him, and C6 is the only really game-changing constellation. Characters that work with Xiao are Jean, Diona, Sucrose, Zhongli, and Albedo. Albedo and Zhongli can work well to boost Xiao's damage, but are very expensive since both are 5 stars. I often use Sucrose, Jean, and Diona for their excellent particle generation. While Sucrose can gather enemies, Jean can heal quickly, and Diona brings a strong shield. You could bring, say, Bennett, but personally I'd rather use Bennett in national team. When playing Xiao, all you want to do is funnel particles into him until his burst is up. When you can burst, you spam his elemental skill and then burst, so you funnel extra energy into him. When you're in burst, plunge spam is what you're going to do most of the time if you're AoE. If you're single target, the N1 CJP combo is optimal if you're only fighting a stationary enemy, or you can hit your enemy with the combo. And that's to know everything about Xiao. I know I didn't go into depth with, say, the weapons, but I believe there's other people with the necessary resources to actually have every weapon and test them out. But yeah, and another thing I didn't mention was the bonk when you hit an enemy during your plunge animation, and you can get an extra bit of damage, but personally, doing that attack is really hit or miss. Sometimes you hit them, say with Signora, Aishdaha, but sometimes it doesn't hit, like for example with the wolves, so I don't think it's that worth mentioning. The N1CJP combo, if I said it correctly, is far better because it's far better for single target. If you can hit multiple stationary enemies, it's good. And yeah, if you've been watching for this long, thanks, appreciate it. Leaving a like or subscribe will help me a lot. And for the next character, I think I want to make it about Xiangling because yeah, best character in the game, and I think I figured out why Xiangling is good versus, talking about a character's flaws, because talking about a character's flaws is far easier versus a character who is good. And maybe after Xiangling, I'll probably do Raiden if I have the time. And yeah, that's it. See ya, and bye.